Hello and welcome to another video here where we're going to be talking about building a character. Now, a lot of people I know struggle with creating their characters and building out their characters, so that's what this video is going to be for. Now, in my last video, I did a quick little showcase on how you can take something very simple and start building it up for your world building. And then I went ahead and made a PDF and put it on my Patreon. You can check that out. I'm going to put a link to the description that fleshes it out even further and gives you a pretty solid, concise example of how you can take something pretty simple and really start building it out. But I wanted to use this video as a way to show how you can really start building out a character. Now I'm going to stick with that same steampunk western town, Devil Springs, but let's focus in on just a character that's going to be in that town, and it's going to be a bartender. So let me go ahead and bring up my notes. I don't remember what I called. It doesn't matter what the name was, so we can get a different name. Because this is supposed to be like a boom town, there can be more than one name. Now, I remember that it was tavern names. So, these are the three tools that I always have when I am brainstorming anything. I have ChatGPT, I have fantasynamegenerators.com, sometimes other sites, but this is my go-to. And then I have a WordPad file, which I always use for taking notes. And we just need something that we can use for a saloon name. Sick Raspberry. No. The Broad Hag. Nah. Clean. This is supposed to be like a steampunk town. Geothermal power. There's hot springs and geysers in the area. So we want something that fits that. Let's see. Agent Salt, Hot Whisper. That is absolutely perfect. Hot Whisper Saloon. Okay, so we need a bartender. So this is probably going to be just a minor character, maybe a side character that just shows up now and again, but this is kind of a good showcase because you don't always need a huge amount of information for every character. In fact, even a lot of main characters you won't need a huge amount of information for. That builds up over time. A lot of the time, all you really need is a general sense of who this character is, a little bit of background, and what it is that they're going to be doing in the story. That's really the core and most important thing that you need to know for creating a new character for a story. Or if you're doing an RPG campaign, what is this character's role? Because you don't want to spend a whole bunch of extra time, sorry about that, and a bunch of extra time on a character that's only going to have like 2 sentences in the entire story. It's a waste of time to bulk out the background and details about a character that's not going to take part in the story very much. You know, unless you might be planning like a trilogy or an extended series and you know that that character may come up later. That might be an exception, but even then, when you're first writing that first story and you're just introducing this character, if they're not really going to be important to the first book, your first story, then wait until later to bulk out the details. Just do what you need to do for now. So we're going to start with this bartender, and we're just going to get a name. And I already had the Old West name generator up. And let's go ahead and go with a guy. I always like trying to find something that's snappy. I find that people tend to like character names that roll off the tongue, that are easy to say. You don't want something that's going to be difficult to pronounce. especially if it's a character that you might want to have as kind of not necessarily sidekick, but maybe a comedy type of character. Because if somebody's describing the story to another person, that's word of mouth advertising for you right there for your story. You don't want to have them stumbling over the name. You want them to be going like, oh, Wells Harris. Yeah, this story has this really funny bartender named Wells Harris. Very simple name, rolls right off the tongue. And the first name Wells is actually didn't even occur to me until just this moment. A well is something that has to do with bartending, I believe. Wells in bartending. Wells are the area behind a bar where lower cost commonly used liquors are kept. Okay, within easy reach. So yeah, Wells Harris. That could even just be a nickname then. But, that's the sort of thing that you can create later. So he's going to be named Wells Harris. So what do we need to know about this bartender? Other than he's going to be the bartender at this Hot Whisper Saloon. Is he going to be the owner, or is he just the bartender? Let's say he's the owner. Owner and bartender, so he owns the place. Now what else do we need to know about him? We need a general description. So when you say the name Wells Harris, this is the first place I start, because you can always come over to ChatGPT or your preferred AI assistant to help get a description or expand a description. But let's just start with, what does the name Wells Harris say to you? Okay, that's where you start. Get a name, and then what does it say to me? What is this? Who is this person? Okay, I think maybe balding, older but still tough as nails. Nasty scar on his uh, right on the right side of his mouth. Okay, always wears, let's see. Stained, I was thinking clean, but no, let's go with stained aprons and snappy looking oh, let's see. I don't think he's a suit wearer. That doesn't feel right. But snappy, something. Um, let's just say clothes for now. We can always expand on that later. I can't think of anything right offhand exactly what the picture I've got in my head is this kind of older guy. He's balding, but he's very tough looking. Got this nasty scar on the side of his face, on his mouth. And even though he always wears these stained aprons, the clothes underneath are always kind of nice and, maybe not fancy, but snappy or snazzy. Pick an adjective. So what kind of guy is he? Let's go with personality now. You can go ahead and say appearance. Get that up a line. Just appearance. Just personality. So, again, this is the sort of thing that you have an appearance in your head. Where does your mind go to when you think personality? Okay? He's balding, he's tough, he's got this nasty scar, but he's a snappy dresser, even though he wears these stained aprons. And he also owns this saloon. So I'm going to say, bit of a dandy. Help if I could actually get my damn typing in line here. bit of a dandy, um, cheerful and outgoing, but not afraid at all to get into a fight or break up a fight. Um, quick with a joke. Do we just go ahead and take the line straight out of Piano Man? Quick with a joke or to light up your smoke? Let's say quick with a joke. Okay. So we have an appearance, we have a personality. So you're gonna have to get the PDF to see more of the details. Of course, I can't give everything away for free, but I want you to learn something. So let's say that his role in the story is going to be the rumor mill guy. He's the one that knows everyone's business. So we can go ahead and say he's a bit nosy. Okay, so we're already starting to build out a character here. We've got plenty to start with. I mean, this is a character we can start writing on. Okay? Maybe the one thing we probably want now is dialogue or speech patterns. How does he talk? So we've got his personality, but his speech pattern. Let's say um do we want to give him a high-pitched voice and go pure comedy? I don't think so. Maybe a bit of a gravelly voice. Gravelly? Gravelly. Gravel? Gruff voice. Sometimes you find yourself trying to figure out, is like, am I spelling this right? I don't think I'm spelling this right. It's good to know synonyms. Now we know it's a gruff voice, which means basically the same damn thing. Gruff voice. Let's say he rarely raises his voice. No, even better. I think he's the kind of guy that can be loud, but when he gets quiet, that's when you know to run away. So he's going to be one of those types that, he can be kind of loud at times, but, not when he's angry. He's loud because he's being outgoing and cheerful and happy. When he gets quiet, that's when you leave the vicinity, because then he's getting mad. Okay, so what would we do here? Well, we have enough to work with, but then we can always take this and go over to ChatGPT and say, help me expand on this character. And as always, the AI is just for brainstorming. You do not have to take everything that it gives you. What you want to do is let it build out your ideas. Okay, and then we let it finish, and then we want to go through and just see, is there anything that just doesn't feel right? So, we've got this appearance, wiry, balding man in his late 50s. Yeah, that sounds about right. A frame that still carries the memory of a brawler. Shoulders are knotted with old muscle. Hands scarred from too many fights and too many bottles dropped while ducking bullets. I don't know about that. Jagged scar running from the corner of his mouth to his jawline. Pulls the right side of his mouth into something permanently sly. I like that. Dresses like a man who wants to be impressive but is too practical to stay clean. Snappy vests, rolled up sleeves, and stylish but stained aprons. Looks like he Could pour you the best drink of your life or crack a chair over your back without spilling it. So for the most part, I like this. So we can go ahead and copy this over. And so then we got that mixed in with those parts. Um, his hands scarred from too many fights and too many bottles dropped while ducking bullets. I don't know what it's trying to say here, that he's um too many fights and cuts from too many bottles dropped while ducking bullets. That makes more sense. Okay. Flamboyant dandy trapped in the body of an aging street boxer, cheerful and bright, always ready with a joke, often at someone else's expense, but never maliciously. Not sure about that. He loves people, loves watching them, nudging them, stirring the pot just enough to learn their secrets. Nosy streak isn't mean-spirited, it's compulsion. He likes understanding how people tick. Okay. Despite his charm, there's steel under the softness. He has absolutely no hesitation stepping into a brawl, particularly one in his saloon. He'll break it up with a club, a bottle, or just his voice, depending on which he thinks will do the job with the least cleanup. He's comfortable being underestimated. In fact, he encourages it. I think all of that fits pretty well with personality. Okay. So the role in the story, he's the rumor hub. He hears everything because he pours the drinks, he owns the space where people loosen their tongues, accidentally drifts near private conversations, it makes it easy for people to talk, lets you believe he's harmless. Connective tissue between plot lines. When a new threat, mystery, or outsider appears, Wells is usually the first to pick up on it. Okay. So it's going into how we would use this more in an RPG campaign, which you might be interested in. I can go ahead and just, again, this is all exactly the sort of thing that I had in mind. It's just building it out a bit for us. And there is nothing about this that is lazy. It is simply taking what you already have created and letting the AI take those core bits, the important parts, and add some details to it. So speech pattern, gravelly, smoker's voice can boom across the room like a cannon. He uses humor to diffuse tension, but switches tone instantly when danger approaches. When Wells goes from loud to quiet, it's not for emphasis, it's punishment. His quiet voice is a warning, and the regulars know it well. Okay. Again, just a little bit of extra detail. I don't know why it keeps wanting to ignore the spacing that I put in here, but whatever. Suggested verbal quirks. Calls people by the wrong nicknames on purpose. I don't know about that. Old-fashioned phrases, maybe. Narrates what he's doing. None of that is really jumping out at me necessarily, so we can skip that. Backstory hooks. Retired bounty hunter or ex-deputy. A gambler who cheated the wrong man. Saloon wasn't originally his. Secret past with a criminal outfit. Once a performer. Let's see. Now this is the sort of thing that it's not really important right now. He's mostly going to be a side character. But let's go with the bounty hunter. The retired bounty hunter thing. That kind of rings true. Alright. So motives. Acts like he cares about everyone because he does. He's built a family out of the drunks, gamblers, misfits, and adventurers that wander in his saloon. His worst fear is losing the hot whisper, not because of money, but because it's his anchor. Second worst fear is someone discovering whatever secret he hides behind that crooked smile. Okay, I don't necessarily feel like he needs to have any secrets right now. Again, that might be for later, or if you want him to have a bigger part in the story than just a side character that runs the bar, the saloon. Now, how to use him in scenes, as an ally, comic relief, narrative turn, as a threat, as exposition. So, I'm thinking comic relief, and these would be notes for ourselves. Um, I don't know about narrative turn. I don't think it's a threat necessarily, unless, that could be a scene, but it's not like he's. Well, I mean, he could be a threat, but I feel like that would be other people. I think what we really want here is how we're going to be using him primarily in this story. Okay. And then we can look down here and see if there's anything else that develop NPC connections. See, this is treating this as like an old or a campaign for an RPG. Secret enemies or plot hooks tied to him. We don't necessarily want any of the plot to be tied directly to him necessarily. He's more of the person that you talk to if you're trying to get some information, or just that you casually encounter through the course of the story, the main character or other characters. So for now, we have ourselves a good side character. We started with some simple details, a name. That's all we had to start with, and that's all you really need. All you need is a name and an idea of who the character is. And usually you know that you need a character for something, and then you come up with a name, and then you just kind of take those two bits of information and extrapolate from there. It's just a process of taking the little bits you already know and then building on them. And then, of course, as I showed you, you can take your little bits and pieces and you take them over into ChatGPT, and then you use that to build out your little profile that you started with. Or if you're having trouble coming up with ideas, you ask ChatGPT to help you with some ideas and take what you like and get rid of what you don't. Okay, and that's really all there is to it. I mean, it isn't that difficult. It's just a skill that you have to build up over time, and it helps to practice with creating characters. And the more you do it, the better at it you'll get. And there you have it. That's how you can build out a character pretty quickly using very little information. And again, it's all just a matter of starting with little things and then building on. You don't have to try to just, like a stamp, boom, you got yourself a character all fully formed. That's not how it works. That's not how people work, for starters. You're born and then you build up your personality, and all of your background, your story is built over time, over years. And you have to kind of treat your characters in your stories the same way. You build them up. You know, Wells Harris could be a major character in a follow-up story. He may only be a minor character or a side character in the first story, but we could build him into a very important character for a second or third story. But for now, we have more than enough to start with. Yeah, and if you want to learn more tricks like this and get more examples, I try to make everything as on point and what's the word I'm looking for? Succinct, perhaps focused. Try to keep things focused and on point in my resources. I have a couple of books that you might want to check out, and that PDF that's on my Patreon is going to be in the description as well. All the links for that will be in the description. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this informative and actionable. So you can just take this and start building your own characters. I'll see you on the next one. And don't forget to do all the fun YouTube stuff because you know it always helps. Also, in the comments, um, tell me if there's anything that you have trouble with characters, building out your characters. What is your sticking point? That I want to know from you. What is it that you have the biggest problem with when it comes to coming up with characters? Is it their voice, how they look? Is it names? Is it personality? The things that I just went through here, and if you feel like I just went through this and made it look super easy, and you're going like, I don't, how are you doing this? Well, it's because I've done it a lot, a whole lot. And sometimes when you know how to do something and it comes naturally to you, it can be difficult to know exactly where other people are having trouble. So if there's something that it feels like I just kind of went right through it like a blur and wasn't really explaining myself or the thoughts going into it, let me know in the comments because I will make other videos trying to address any of those other issues and try to go into more detail on those issues that you might be having. So once again, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day.